Hello. Good to, almost see everybody. I see names, which is good. I think we're a small group today, so we'll probably get started here in just a few seconds. And feel free to turn on your cameras if you're brave. And as usual, because we're a small group, just feel free to jump in and ask questions anytime. So today is, our topic today is podcasts. So Camila has prepared a great presentation to just talk about what that might mean for your school and for Montessori schools. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Camille. Yeah, I'm Camila and I'm the community manager here. So I'm always on the lookout for ways to support Montessorians and also how they can help their own communities. And I think that the topic today is so important because it's another format that you can use for parenting education. And like any media, it could seem intimidating, but it's actually so easy to use. I have a presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Okay, got it here. All right, are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
Awesome. A slow start.
I feel like we should have these big microphones in front of us today, like.
I know I have. I
headphones.
Do have my microphone. Yeah, it would feel. Oh no, what happened? Oh, here we go. My apologies for my slow internet. I thought it was working fine earlier today, but. Gives more people a chance to hop on the call, doesn't it?
Yeah, some people are kind of coming in, and we have Heather here from South Africa.
Oh wow! What time is it over there? Probably kind of later.
She said good evening. She said good evening. So
7:30 at night.
Oh, okay, so you're 1 hour ahead of me because I'm in London. It's 6:30 here.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
All right, so here's a little breakdown of what I'm going to be talking about today. So first of all, I'm going to go into the intricacies of what is a podcast. I'm sure that most people here already know what a podcast is. You're probably avid listeners to a few, subscribe to a few interesting ones. I'm going to talk also about why they're a good resource for parents and why they're also a good option for your school to utilize as a parenting education resource. I'm also going to talk about how you can create a podcast step by step, and it's so much simpler than it seems. It's a really interesting process. I'm also going to talk about how you can share your podcast so that you can offer it to your parent community. I also have a podcast list I'm going to be sharing. It's a master kind of podcast list of all of the Montessori podcasts I could find, with all the links in there. So if you want to share that with your families as well, if you choose not to do your own podcast, you also have that as an option. And then there's going to be some time for Q&A at the end. So first off, what is a podcast? You probably all already know or listen to podcasts, but it's basically just an audio file that you can subscribe to and you can listen to on your device, such as a phone or computer. And you don't have to watch a video along with it. It's just the audio, so you can kind of listen to it while you're doing other things. You can kind of listen to it as the way you would music, but it's normally informational or sharing some type of news or story. So why is this a good resource for parents? Well, there are so many reasons why. Nowadays, there are so many households that have both parents at work. They have really busy schedules, and it's often difficult for them to carve out time to read your blog posts and to maybe take a parenting course. But a podcast is something they can consume quite easily while they're running errands, while they're cooking dinner, while they're waiting in the carpool line. It's a very easy form of media to consume. It's also a form of media that parents are familiar with. A lot of people already listen to podcasts. They've been around for several years now. They feel comfortable listening to them on the go. So it's something that people are already using. It's also really easy to share this form of media. You don't have to print anything out. You just publish it online. I'll show you how to do that in our step-by-step. And it's also a great way for parents to learn about Montessori without having to, like I said earlier, carve out that time. They can hear from your guides, from yourself, from people who have this Montessori training, and learn more about what it means to, understand the Montessori method, to maybe do Montessori in the home, or to have parenting styles that align with Montessori philosophy. So it's a great way for them to learn. So why are they great for your school? Because obviously you want there to be benefits for your school itself. First off is that they're really easy to produce. It's a low cost, and it ultimately can be free as well, form of media to produce for your school. Really, if you're gonna decide to dive into the podcast, you maybe have to invest in a microphone. There's plenty of low cost options, and I'll talk about that later. And that's pretty much the only kind of cost that's going to come out of budget. A lot of the recording platforms, they offer the first 3 hours of uploaded recording time free. So really, you're not looking at spending a lot of money on this form of media. You don't have to invest in a good camera or anything like that, which tends to be much more expensive. They're easier to produce in videos as well. You don't have to worry about a background or lighting or how you look on camera. You can just sit down in any place. You can even do it in your own home and just either read or talk into the microphone. So it's a lot more relaxed than producing a video course. Like I said before, it's easy to share on your website. You can share it through social media as well. You can share it in several different ways to your community through email. So it's quite easy to distribute. And it's also highly shareable. This can be a form of marketing for your school because parents love to exchange kind of good parenting resources amongst each other. And maybe parents, are able to share this with their peers who are also going through the same experiences with their own children. It might help you to spread the word about Montessori, because I think a lot of Montessorians, when I talk to them, they say the best way that people hear about their school is normally through word of mouth. So imagine people out there listening to your voice, listening to the voices of your guides, telling them about Montessori. It's really such a great resource for schools. So let's talk about this step by step on how you can actually create these podcasts for your school. So step one, and this is like, when it comes to any sort of content creation, you're really going to have to plan. But luckily, the planning process can be simplified. I'm going to give a few tips on how you can simplify this. So you want to brainstorm a couple of topics of discussion. A great way to do this is just to kind of think of the most commonly asked questions that parents ask you about Montessori. There's some really obvious ones like, why is it so important to stay in that kindergarten year? What's the value in that? Or, why is practical life so important in Montessori? Why are children in the classroom sweeping and cleaning tables? Why is this happening in the Montessori classroom? So just think of those topics that parents tend to ask and kind of make a list of them. You may already have blog posts on these topics that you can then repurpose into podcasts. So that kind of right there eliminates so much time in your planning process. Also, decide on the format of your podcast. It can be as simple as you reading a blog. Maybe you can be interviewing one of your guides, interviewing a student at your school and talking to them about their experience, interviewing a parent. That's a great kind of audio testimonial that you can produce. Figure out who's going to be speaking. Obviously, make sure they're comfortable with their voice being recorded. Is this something that is okay with them? Do they feel comfortable and kind of good about hearing their own voice back? And then kind of figure out how often you'll record podcasts. Really, this isn't that important. You can do them periodically. You can kind of sit down one summer when you have time and just record 5 and then release those in the year. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, it's just as you need really. It doesn't need to be like a subscription podcast where there's one new one every week. That's not what you're in the business of doing. You're in the business of providing education. This is just additional support for parents, but it's always good to have a plan. yeah, again, research your content and have it ready to record. So whether you're going to pull out a blog from your kind of archives of great parenting blogs that you may have written in the past, mark those and just repurpose them. You can record them into audio bits. Make sure you have the necessary equipment to start as well. Like I said, invest in a good microphone. I have a really great one, and I'll show it at the end of the presentation, that I bought for I think it cost about $60 on Amazon, and it's great. I've recorded audio bits on it and it sounds really clear. So there's some really great affordable options out there, and it's a one-time purchase. Yeah, and then you can also create your own cover art if necessary. I'm going to be giving a tutorial on how you can create your own cover art for free on Canva, meaning it's that little kind of picture behind the play button, and you can brand it to your school so it really seems personal to your school. And it's so easy to create, and of course free. So really it's kind of a 4-step, I like to say 3-step process, because really voice and scripts kind of go hand in hand. Production, and then you distribute. So once you kind of have that in mind, it all kind of makes sense and falls together. So again, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to brainstorming topics, think about what parents struggle with the most. What topics do you wish parents knew more about? What's going to help you? Ultimately, you know, a huge issue I know that a lot of Montessorians will say is, oh, there's so many parents that, you know, they struggle with drop off. They want to come into the classroom, and that then kind of plays into separation anxiety. You can talk about that in a podcast, and parents will listen, and it'll solve a problem for you. But yeah, you can definitely kind of create a list of topics that you think are beneficial for parents to know. Step 2 is actually creating the content. So this is recording, producing, and editing your podcast. So once you've decided on the format, your topic, you can then either start writing and record the content. Do you want it to sound conversational? Do you want it to just be lecture, like you reading out of a page of a book? You can kind of decide on that, the tone that you're going for, and then go from there, start recording. This is our step 3, recording and producing. So like I said, invest in a good mic. I'm going to be sharing this presentation, and this here is a link to a list of great microphones specifically for podcasts that you can connect to your computer. And most of these are low cost. So this is a great resource, and I'll be sharing that with the community later. So please click on that link if you're looking for one. Then when you're recording, you know, if you have invested in a good mic, you want to make sure you're in a quiet setting, because it will pick up on background noise. You want to make sure it's very clear, parents can hear your voice. And then you want to also decide on good software to install on your computer. I'm going to show you in a couple slides free software that you can install on your computer. It's completely free to record audio super easily on your computer. Always make sure to test the audio before you start recording. It would be so frustrating to sit there for 15 minutes and read a whole blog or script and then realize it wasn't working and you have to start over. So always test your audio. And I recommend to save all files as MP3 files. That just tends to be the most generic sound file, and a lot of uploading websites will let you upload MP3 files. So whenever you go to finish your sound, make sure you're downloading it as MP3. So I'm going to give a few options when it comes to this free software. So my 2 favorites are Audacity and Garageband. So Garageband is great if you are a Mac user. It pretty much comes pre-installed in most Macs. It's free for Mac users, but again, it's only compatible for Mac OS. And it's so easy to use. It's designed for with the user in mind. So you don't have to have any sort of sound production or recording expertise to use it. It's literally just a record button, a pause button, a play button, and then a few editing tools. It's very straightforward. Now, if you're not a Mac user, Audacity is another great software that you can use for free. And what's great about Audacity is, again, it's made with the user in mind. It's very straightforward to use. I'll give a short demo shortly. You can record and edit with the software. You can add music. I mean, you can do this with both. So these are the 2 recording softwares I would recommend. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give an Audacity demo, and I'm going to click, because this is a link here to Audacity itself. So this is what you see when you search Audacity on Google. You'll get on their website, and if you want to install it, you literally just press download Audacity and it will be installed into your computer. It's very straightforward. So, and it's free. So once it's downloaded into your computer, and I'm going to share, I guess, my Audacity now. This is what you'll see when it comes time to record. Now it looks a little weird because it has numbers and stuff on it, but it's really quite easy. This will tell you how long your recording is from start to finish. And it's pretty straightforward. This button here, you press when you're ready to record. If you want to stop, you press the stop button. If you want to listen to it, you press the play. And I'll show you here. See, you can see that I'm recording now. I'm talking into the mic, so it's recording. There you go. I have 5 seconds of recording time. I've paused it. And if I decide I don't like that, you press the scissors, you cut, and you press delete, and you can start over. And this is really my favorite tool. It's my personal tool of choice when it comes to recording audio. And then once you're ready to save it, you save it as you would any document. You go on your top screen, you put file and download as an MP3, and it will be saved onto your computer. So really, it's such a great tool. It's so easy to use. I highly recommend it for anyone who kind of wouldn't consider themselves tech savvy. All right, I'm going to switch back now to the presentation to continue. I think actually, Camille, next up is the Garageband demo. I don't know if you want to show our attendees here how to use Garageband, because that's another great option.
Sure, I can do that. Sure. All right, now I'll share my screen. I'm going to share my whole screen, so you're going to see. Can you see everything here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what GarageBand looks like when you first pull it up, and it comes with Macs. So if you're using a Mac, you probably have it on there. So just you want to start a new project. So just say choose, and it just comes up with this empty. Oh, no, because I have my AirPods in, so it was asking me that. I don't normally do that. But you just want to record using a microphone and create. And you can see that it's picking up my voice here by this level here, but it's very similar to Audacity, has the same record button and everything. But what I wanted to show you here is so Camila and I worked together, and she created, using Audacity's, her MP3 files of her voice talking. So what I did was, what you want to do is turn off, it has this metronome feature up here that we don't need for a podcast. But she has, this is an MP3. You can see my whole desktop here, right? This is just on my desktop. It's just an MP3 file. You just drag it right on there. And now we have that track of her podcast that's called Let's Talk About Lunch. And it's as easy as that. You just drag it in. Now, when I hit play, I noticed that the level was a little bit, I apologize this being so big, the level was a little low. So if I just click on this, and then I can go to the equalizer down here, and all that is, I mean, it could get really fancy if you have different instruments. Obviously, it's just the voice. And I just use this, and I just kind of raise the volume of this track so that when it's mixed with the music, it doesn't get drowned out. So I found this, and sorry about that. I found this free music MP3, and we're going to talk more about where to find those. But this is, you can even tell just from looking at it that it's got a really, really high volume. So if I were to play these together, you wouldn't be able to hear Camila's voice at all. So what I did for this one is I just lowered the volume a little bit here. So now if I hit play, you can kind of you can hear what it's going to sound like, and hopefully you guys can hear this. I think the audio is on my AirPods. Maybe I should take that off. Let me play it and you let me know if you can hear it. Can you guys hear that?
A little bit, like very faintly.
Okay, let me, hang on a minute. Okay, let's try this one more time. Can you hear, you can hear me now too though, right? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just turn up the volume a little bit. So, can you hear that?
Welcome to the Montessori Parenting Podcast.
And now it's all mixed into one unit. So we have some music and we have the voice. And then it's as easy as to save it. You just go to share, export song to disk, and it's going to allow me to save it as a MP3 file. And it's saved to disk, and then it's all set, and you can distribute it any way that you like. So that's as easy as it is. It's drag and drop. I haven't used GarageBand a whole lot, and I was able to figure this out in 10 minutes to basically take a track of voice and a track of music, put them together, kind of make the volumes work together, work with the timing, and make an MP3 that sounds not too bad. So, and certainly good enough, I think, for your school's podcast. So I'll stop sharing and we'll get.
Yeah, that's great. It makes it sound so professional and kind of, professionally made when you layer it with the music and has an intro track. All right, I'm gonna continue with the presentation. All right, so we had a great GarageBand demo there. Another great tool that's of course free to use if you have a Mac. And then, as Camille mentioned, with the music, if you need alternatives for royalty-free music, there's a list here. It's also a link of different websites that you can use. There are loads, just like you can find royalty-free photos for your school online, you can find royalty-free sounds. And this, of course, is completely optional. There's lots of podcasts that, don't have an intro song, but it always sounds a little bit more professional, a little bit nicer when this is added. So yeah, you can find one sound that works and kind of make that your normal intro song. But we would recommend it just because it does sound just that much nicer, and it's so easy to do as well. All right, so step 4 is branding, and this one I'm excited about because really this is your opportunity to kind of produce a form of media that you can then put your brand on that's so shareable, because people love to exchange podcasts with each other. So like, you can add your signature intro by picking that great intro song of your choice. You can design your own podcast and just stay consistent with the tone. Like, what is the tone that you're going for, your mission with these podcasts. So I'm going to show you how you can create a podcast cover for free on Canva. Canva is probably one of my favorite online tools of all time. So here I am on the Canva homepage as it loads. If you're not familiar with Canva, I highly recommend reviewing it because it's such a great resource. Oops. All right. So here I am on canva.com. Canva is free. I have the pro version, but you of course can do a lot with the free version. So you don't have to get this the paid version. So if I go here, I can actually search podcast cover in the search bar, and it shows me here, this is the exact size a podcast cover would need to be, and I can click on that and it will take me to a create page. So I can actually create my own podcast cover and design it. It's asking me to select from a bunch of templates. So here are just some templates that people have created, but you can start from scratch, of course. Or if you find a template that you like and you just want to add your own pictures, you can also do that. And I mean, this is such an easy tool to use. It's so fun to play with. You can add an element, so you can add in different shapes, pictures, photo frames. They have a great stock library as well with lots of relevant photos. I was really impressed actually by Canva because they have more Montessori pictures than I thought. Some of them are quite good as well. You can kind of pick and choose from different, like they actually do have photos that you can use with Montessori materials. And of course, you can also upload your school logo. So if you have a good school logo, here I have some photos uploaded on here. I have our Nido Marketing logo as well. So you can actually personalize it as you wish. So it really is a great tool. And then once you're done, once you have your cover that you're happy with, you can just simply download it. And we recommend PNG as is suggested just because it is an image, but you can download it in a variety of formats. But it's so easy to create it, and it just gives it that extra touch of being personal. So I love Canva for so many reasons. It's just a great tool. All right. Step 5, publishing and distribution. This is probably going to be the most tedious part other than maybe recording, but it can be done quite easily. And once you get in the rhythm of it, it becomes really easy. So I'm going to talk about 3 forms of publishing, and one of them in particular, well, 2 of them really are my favorite. And the first is SoundCloud. And the reason SoundCloud is so great is it's free for anyone to listen to. You can upload up to 3 hours of audio for free. And parents don't have to have a SoundCloud account to actually listen to your recordings. So if it's something they're not familiar with, they can just go on the website and listen to your recordings. It's quite easy. And you can upload things automatically onto SoundCloud. Another option that is also a great one is just to save those MP3 files and post them directly on your website. You can choose to have a page for podcasts on your website. You may have a section for your blog. You could have a section for podcasts as well, and you can kind of just put all of your audio recordings on there as an extra resource for prospective parents or for current parents. And this will allow parents to either listen to your MP3 file directly from their computer or to download it and listen to it on a different device. Lastly, obviously, which is the most popular form of listening to podcasts, is iTunes and the podcast app on Apple. I mean, if you're really dedicated to your podcast, this is great, but they have a couple of procedures that make it a little bit difficult to upload on iTunes. You have to submit your audio to be approved. I believe the first 2 or 2.5 hours, I'm not quite sure, I think it's 2 hours of audio is free. After that, you do have to pay to upload your audio onto this platform. The benefit of iTunes and Apple Podcasts is that it is the most common platform for podcasts themselves. But there are plenty of podcasts that exist outside of these platforms, and I'll show you some examples of each. So here, I'm just going to kind of get you familiarized with SoundCloud in a very short demo, just to show you how easy it is. So this is a SoundCloud, website here, and I'll go ahead and go back to home. It's easy to create an account. It's free. You will need an account to upload audio. You won't need an account to listen to audio, just to upload it. And when you're on your homepage, it's just designed for uploading. You click upload up here, and then you can drag any MP3 file on there, just as Camille did. You drag it onto here, and then you're able to publish it. It allows you as well to write a description of your sound and to title it. So you can title the podcast as you wish, and then people will be able to listen to it. It will have its own link. You can send people links to listen to it. So it's quite an easy platform to upload music onto, or podcasts onto.
Or music.
Yeah. I'm like skipping ahead. I'm realizing it instead of going back. All right. I also want to talk about distribution. Your podcast can be a great marketing tool, as I mentioned, and a community tool. You can share it on several platforms. So once you have it uploaded onto a platform, feel free to share it on your social media, whether you have an Instagram for your school or a Facebook page. Maybe you have a parenting Facebook group associated with your school. Always add those onto there as an extra tool for people to utilize. You can also share audio bits on YouTube, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like because it's actually really great, and YouTube is a great way for people to find you and to learn more about Montessori. And of course, offer it on your website. It's great to kind of have those things available. Prospective parents love to explore your website. Current parents like to have things easily accessible to them on your website. So it's great to kind of post those there. I want to show now some examples of some existing Montessori podcasts that I'm a fan of and how they're kind of publishing it out there. So first off, here's a YouTube example. So this particular podcast is a really great podcast to recommend to parents if you don't want to produce one, by the way. But they have uploaded on their website, you can actually listen to their podcast via YouTube. So it's actually a YouTube video that's just a picture with the audio overlapping it. So as you can see here, that was me listening to it earlier.
Hit inside emotionally. It's like the adults are saying to us.
So what they've done is just selected a picture or probably created one and recorded their voice over it, and it can be listened to. There's obviously no video associated to it, but people can listen to it on the go. So that's one platform that I like, and parents nowadays really know how to use YouTube. Another example is just having your MP3 on your website, or just having it on your website directly. And this is the Montessori Notebook podcast, which is another great podcast to recommend to your parents. And she has here just, this is her season 2. You can just play her audio bits directly from her website. She has her cover, and you can play, and it's quite easy to access. So this is another great format. She also has alternative platforms for you to listen to, but she offers it directly on her website. Another great one is SoundCloud. And this is actually something that one of our very own Montessori Thrive members shared with us a while back and said, you can share this Montessori podcast with anyone you like. And it's really, really great. The content is amazing, and they've done it on SoundCloud. They do have a pro account because they've gone over the 3 hours. It's free, but I think it's well worth it. And I would think that their parents really appreciate having this as a resource. And I'm just going to show you here how it looks, because what they've done is really amazing here. And feel free to share this podcast, because Paula did let us know that anyone is welcome to it. But yeah, so here she has, you can see the Montessori backdrop on her account, and she has all of her tracks here. You can see how long ago they were posted. You can see the length of each track. She has her cover photo here, and here she is talking about a variety of different Montessori topics. She's got quite a bit of recording already, but this is what it would look like on the SoundCloud website, just as an example for you all to see. And again, this is free to listen to, so I recommend sharing it with parents if you're looking for a good podcast to share. Okay, so we've gone through kind of the step-by-step on producing your own podcast. Maybe it's overwhelming to you, or maybe you just have so much on your plate already, you just don't have the capacity to create one. You certainly don't have to create one if you feel like that's just too much. There are lots of alternatives. I do think that podcasts are such a great resource for parenting education. It's great for multitasking parents who have so much on their plate. You can always just recommend good podcasts for them to listen to. And so we did create our master list, and this is on a Word document. So you can email it to parents, you can share it with them, and it has all of the links embedded in the document so that they can click and listen to the podcasts. So they're done by title as well, by topic. So parents can go in there and find the topic that, is kind of pressing to them. There's all sorts of topics, from toilet training to Montessori language in the primary classroom to Montessori for adolescents. There's so many different topics, and they can kind of go through the master list here. So if you don't want to go through the trouble of creating your own, you can access the list. This is a link to our member site, and you can see it there. So I'd love to jump into questions, kind of see what, I'm gonna stop sharing, what you guys think. If you guys think you will be doing a podcast, if you guys just want to figure out, kind of have any more questions about what it's like to create a podcast, or have I burnt everyone out? Have I shared too much all at once?
I have, well, first of all, I'd like to thank you. This was like an amazing and refreshing presentation, and it's exciting. Yes, it's very, like you said, sometimes our time is very limited, but I do think that parents do listen to podcasts, and it's an important thing to have. More or less, how long would you say average each podcast should be?
I mean, I've sat and I've listened to so many Montessori podcasts at this point, trying to figure out like what the tones are, and really it varies. Most podcasts are probably at around, again, it depends on entirely on the content. There are some that are lectures that take about 30 to 40 minutes, and that's a really deep dive into kind of a certain topic. But also it's great to kind of produce shorter ones. Like for instance, if you have a really well-written blog, it doesn't take 30 minutes to read a blog. That would be insane for you to even create a blog that's 30 minutes long. Your blog might read as 5 to 15 minutes. That's good enough to be an audio bit in itself. If you're getting a good point across, if you feel like, it's lengthy enough, I wouldn't say longer than 40 minutes. So I think after that point, it starts to become a chore to listen to. But yeah, like for instance, the ones that Forest Bluff Montessori did that are really great are anywhere from, there were some that are 16 minutes, and then there's some that are like 35. But I think the most important thing to focus on is the content valuable from beginning to end? Or are there just gaps in what's interesting or not? Just make sure that it's worthy content.
Right. And I'm sorry, another one, because you also mentioned to keep the same tone. So I'm assuming it should be the same person. You choose a person from the school who is, per se, the speaker or and I do like the idea of interviews, but I don't know if, let's say, our school could have all interviews. So what would you think, for example, if we did one which is kind of like a lecture, most of them, but then here and there have a couple of interviews? Would that kind of kill the consistency of it, or?
No, I think what I mean by consistency is have familiar voices there. So have people who, are known in your school community. So yeah, have your guides come and talk, have yourself as an administrator, voices that your school community is familiar with. You can certainly have a variety of different formats. I think it's great to have a few lecture ones for those parents who really want to learn deeply about a topic. Maybe they're really struggling with toilet training, and you as a Montessorian have some really great tips. Maybe you want to make it a more casual conversation about toilet training and bring in parents who've experienced it, get their input on it, and kind of make it into reporting. That's what I mean by kind of picking the tone for the topic that you're going for. I think interviews are really great because it involves your community in creating the podcast. You're hearing voices from parents, from students, and it can also be a great tool for testimonials, because we always say to have testimonials on your website, like quotes that parents or students have said about your school. But how great would it be to keep in contact with a student who has graduated from your school, and then you keep in touch with them, ask them to come back for an interview, and they're explaining what Montessori has done for them beyond the classroom after they finished in your school. So there's lots of things you can do there with the format: interview, lecture, reading a blog. You don't have to do them all the same. I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also just realized I wanted to show the microphone that I use, and this one I bought on Amazon. I'm using it now. It's it's called the Snowball by Blue, and I want to say it's around like $59. It's just under $60, I think. and it's really a good microphone. So if you're looking for, I think it is on the master list that I included in the presentation, which will be shared, but highly recommend that one. It's a low cost one. When I first Googled good microphones, there were some that were like $500 that came up. I was like, I don't need that. You certainly don't need that. You just need a mic that will work for recording, and one that has a USB cord specifically so you can plug it into your computer to make it easier. You don't want to have to record it and then figure out a way to put it on your computer. Let's simplify the process.
I just wanted to bring up a little bit about music. And that can be one way you can kind of have consistency with all of your podcasts without having the same speaker necessarily. I would even encourage you to have different speakers to make them a little more interesting. But you could have like a little sort of signature, snippet of music that kind of introduces your podcast, that becomes that familiar, piece of it. But when it comes to music, there's some that's available online that is free, but you have to make sure it's free. Well, you have to make sure it's royalty free. Otherwise, especially if you're putting it on SoundCloud or on some platform, the artist might be able to come say, hey, wait, you're using my music and you didn't buy the rights to it. So so make sure it's royalty free. There's some that is absolutely free. So you don't have, like that little jingle that I had, didn't cost me anything. But there's a lot that's available for very minimal cost where you can buy the rights for it for a few bucks and then you have it. A lot of them offer, sort of a sound, and then they have like a 3-minute version and a 20-second version and a 10-second version. So you can kind of pick and choose what piece of it that you want. But what I really wanted to emphasize is that just make sure that you're not stepping on anybody's, copyright issues when it comes to the music, because I've heard that can get to be a little sticky if you end up using, like, you can't just, I really like, Paul Simon, I'm going to take one of his, piece of music and have that be my thing. You can't do that. You have to make sure that it's royalty free music. And I know YouTube audio has a ton of free clips that you can grab for that. So.
Yeah, and also I didn't mention this earlier about YouTube, but because SoundCloud, it'll only allow you to upload up to 3 hours of free audio, and iTunes will only let you do 2 hours of free audio. But YouTube, you can post on as much as you want, free, unlimited. So it's free forever. So if cost is really an issue for you, YouTube and just kind of putting the audio over a video, over a picture, is an option for you as well. So if you really don't want to pay for a platform, YouTube, like I showed in the example, is a great option. But yeah, certainly don't use music that is going to get you fined, because it's the same as, I guess, when you publish a blog post and you're using pictures that somebody else owns, they could come after you. Just want to be aware. There are so many royalty-free music options though, and they're really good ones too, and appropriate for Montessori kind of sound that trickles in, trickles out. So yeah.
Sorry, did you say you are able or you're not able to use music on Audacity?
You can put music files on Audacity as well. So if you find a song that you enjoy, you can also, in the same way as GarageBand, you can drag that MP3 onto Audacity and layer it on in the exact same way. Yeah, because GarageBand is only for those Mac computers, but Audacity works essentially the same way for people who aren't on a Mac computer.
So one other application I was thinking of while you were talking, Camila, is I know when I was at the school I was at, frustrated that parents didn't always read our newsletters. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but what a great, what if you read them and recorded them, and just emailed that out too, still email out a print version. And of course you can't, talk a calendar or something like that. But if you would just have, a 3 or 4 paragraphs kind of newsletter, that's something you can maybe just record and then just attach that MP3 file to your newsletter that you emailing out anyway. And then instead of, they could just hit play and listen to it instead. And maybe, when they're waiting in carpool line or something like that. So there's, I think, a lot of different applications that you can think of where you don't have to be expounding on, all the wonderful things about Montessori necessarily. You can take this and use it, for real practical purposes, like something like that, like just what's going on this week at the school kind of thing. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, it also makes it more inclusive, I think, that way, to kind of give more options to how to receive the content. Definitely, you don't have to, every time you use audio, you don't have to produce a whole podcast. You can just read out a newsletter and email that along with the actual print version. Like Camille said, I think that's a really good idea. All right, any further questions? I'd be interested to know if any of you do anything like this for your school, create audio bits or podcasts, or if you just recommend any good podcasts to your parents as well, because I was surprised how many great Montessori ones are, and there are from different perspectives. In the list, there are some that are given by Montessorians. There are some that are given by parents who have explored into Montessori and have loved it and decided that's how they wanted to bring up their children. So lots of perspectives available on Montessori on podcasts.
So if you haven't done anything like this, is there kind of best practices or something about the frequency that you would put something out in an audio way, or should you get a few under your belt before you start putting them out to your community or something? I would think you wouldn't want to put one out and then wait too long before you did that again, but what have you experienced?
I mean, I think when it comes to frequency, consistency is always best, but I don't think there's necessarily a malpractice. I don't think what you don't want to do is just record one, post it, and then forget about it and never do another one. I would say it's good to have maybe at least 5 good ones to start. That I feel like that's a good number in my head. I might just be imagining that number, but I think that's a good place to start because parents can kind of, oh, there's already 5. Okay, and there's different topics. Let me pick the topic that I'm the most interested in and see how I enjoy it and what I feel like I've learned from it. And then I might click on the next one. And then from there, you can kind of release them as the year goes on. Again, all Montessori administrators have so much on their plate. It can become a lot to even block out a little bit of time to record a podcast. So don't feel pressured to do one every week or every month. Do them as you feel necessary. Maybe you have a parent who comes and asks you a question and you think, you know what, so many parents have asked me this would be a great podcast. I'm going to create one, put it out on the website so people can listen to. Yeah, I do know, however, if you decide to do iTunes, which is always a little bit more complicated, I think they require you to do 2 or 3 and submit 2 or 3 at least before they publish it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what I read on about Apple, because they don't want any just one-off podcasts out there. Yeah. They're a little bit more strict. That's not the case with the other platforms, though.
Well, I'm just wondering, we just recently, our school is 55 years old, and our foundress just passed away a week ago. And, even for that visitation, for the funeral too, there are so many people who came, like alumni, adult students who were there when she was in the classroom. And I just keep thinking, gosh, to capture that, I mean, in an audio form would be really wonderful. And you could keep that going throughout the year, different things about her or about Montessori, and just trying to envision what could or should that look like. I guess I was wondering if somebody is not with you in person, can they then mail you themselves an audio version of their story and then do something like this? I mean, would that work pretty easily?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a lovely idea, just to keep, especially schools that have such a long history like that. You can certainly ask people to record an MP3 file, which a lot of people will know how to do, and they don't need to have a fancy mic. They could use their phone, or the sound quality will just differ. But I think that for something like this, that would be okay because it's a bunch of testimonials or experiences kind of layered together. They could then send you all of the MP3 files, and just like Camille kind of demoed in GarageBand, you can just drag each MP3 file and kind of put them back to back in the way that you feel would edit nicely. But yeah, I think that would be a great thing. And they certainly don't have to be in the room with you. They can just send you that via email.
And so if you're connecting, let's say, a couple with then your own voice, maybe introducing the next person or saying something, it's easy enough to edit pieces like that, to put in pieces and create a whole.
Yeah. What you can ask maybe is when each person is recording themselves to start with an introduction, to start with, hi, my name's Camila. I went to this Montessori from this year to this year, and these are my memories. And then the next one will start with, hi, my name is Camila. So then when they layer together, you can kind of pick up when each recording is starting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I know is possible, but I've never done, is if you were able to get, just like we have a Zoom call here, you could record it like this is being recorded and make a podcast out of the recording of the Zoom call. So you could, ask, it could be more conversational is all I'm saying, is you could ask a question and have them respond to it, and then just make the I haven't done that, so I can't give you the exact step-by-step, but I don't think it would be very complicated because everything is, it's just an audio recording. So just like anything else.
Well, parents always want to know if we're having in-person meetings again, and they want to know, oh, can you make a recording of that? I can't be, but never, the sound quality is never good if you're trying to get the whole group or questions that they ask. But I wonder if you're putting it more in a podcast form, that might be an easier way to just capture the content of the meeting and distribute that another way for those who couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, Camila, am I wrong by saying you can just download the audio from a Zoom recording? Is that available on Zoom?
I believe it is, but I'd have to double check that because, like I said, I haven't actually tried that. But I know I listen to podcasts where they have done that, so I know it's definitely possible. But just to get back to your point, Susan, that I think, are you talking about recording a live meeting or a Zoom meeting?
I was wondering about that. Well, both ways, both situations, I think. Yeah.
So clearly recording a Zoom meeting is easier than recording a live meeting, because if you're in a bigger room and,
sound,
like you said, the sound
hard.
Quality, unless you have a mic that, you're passing around, which isn't impossible to do, but sometimes can, interrupt the flow of the meeting a little bit. And sometimes people are more self-conscious if they're talking and holding a mic,
absolutely.
But if you were recording it, that, it's possible. It's just, and I wonder with some of these, it might take a little bit of an investment, but if you bought, depending on the size of your meeting room, but if you had, a couple, 2-3 mics kind of just situated in the room, you might be able to pick up voices easier, and they just can be stationary. Again, it's not something I've tried, but in my mind, I'm thinking that would probably work, because I know I have one of those snowball mics too, and it picks up a lot. So, even if you had a couple of those, like one on each side of the room, then you might be able to get better audio quality for a live meeting.
I know that with my microphone, I live on the ground floor of an apartment, and sometimes when people are walking by the window and they're talking, it'll pick up on it. That's how sensitive the sound is. And this is like not an expensive microphone by any means. So yeah, the sound quality is quite good on it.
Good. Well, thank you for all the resources too. I mean, that's such a big help to get started on it, to have all of that. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and we'll be sharing the presentation slides as well that have all of the links to the microphone lists, the royalty-free music websites as well. So you'll have that here if you're looking to get started as well, because I know that'll save a lot of time on doing research.
So I know this is a really probably elementary question, but so if you have your school newsletter, let's say, or your weekly news sent out, and people are looking on their phone, and there's a link to the podcast there, so they would just click on that, and they're sitting in their car and they're waiting, so then they could hear that audio, right? It's as simple as that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
What we need to do it. We need to do it yesterday,
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's something that parents, when they're sitting in carpool,
Yeah.
they're in their car, so they may not feel comfortable reading something, but they can certainly listen when they're doing their grocery shoppings, cooking dinner. I mean, I listen to podcasts throughout the day here and there when I'm doing my own
Yeah.
errands. So it's so helpful. Yeah, they don't have to carve out that time to sit down and read a Montessori book or read your
Right.
blog. They can just do it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm all in.
Oh, that's great, Susan. I hope everything goes well. If you have any questions, I'm going to drop my email here.
That'd be good.
Feel free to reach out. We also have a Facebook group where I'm always online to answer any questions that people have, and we have a bunch of Montessori leaders on there to answer questions on a variety of leadership things. So feel free to ask questions either to me directly or in the group.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I would say just try it. It's
Yeah.
not really that hard to just give it a shot, and play around with it. And if you have questions, ask us. And, I think it's people hear podcasts and they think, oh, it must be this big
Oh,
production
yeah.
and everything. But it's really, think of it as, those old little tape recorders that, you just basically, recording yourself. And so it's really shouldn't be too daunting. You just kind of have to dive in and try it. So.
I also say it's so much easier than recording videos, because when you record a video, you have to think about, is what I'm wearing okay? Is the lighting good? Is the background looking good?
Yeah.
Do I have a good camera? With this, you can do it in your pajamas at home. You can just sit down and talk into the mic. It's so much easier. So it just from the production standpoint of it, it makes so much sense to do it.
And from the user end too, because it's so easy to have a little moment where you can listen. I always think when I'm driving somewhere, I just soon listen to a podcast as to listen to anything else. So
right.
I'm sorry, Dolores, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine, Susan. I was saying for those schools, which is not our case, but those schools that have upper or, middle school and high school, it's also a great resource for the children to do some kind of podcast themselves, and they can practice doing that, and you can put that out there and it would look great, reflect wonderful on the website, and children just start getting used to that and can give so much, good, interesting talks for parents or even prospective parents. What do I have to look forward to in a Montessori middle school, high school, and so forth. So it's a great, great tool.
That's such a good point. Imagine having on your website a kind of a podcast series that's produced by your older students that people can listen to and kind of get a real insight as to what it's like to be in a Montessori at that age. Like, that is definitely an incredible resource.
Well, we just added high school a few years ago. We had our first graduating class a year ago, and they write for the newsletter something every week, but they also did these capstone projects where we had to do it virtually, so they filmed, but that would be great. I mean, that's a great idea. We have a lot of ways we could use that, or even just what they're doing on a daily basis here. Kids have fun with that. Once they get used to it, that would be a fun thing.
Absolutely.
If you have any questions, just ask them. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you how to do it.
That's right. I know, that's the truth. We've got the wrong people talking here in my case.
The tech savvy generation is coming.
They'll take over the project.
That's right. It's probably a good thing too. That's what it's all about.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Any
thank
other
you very much.
questions?
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Suzanne. I'm glad that you found this helpful. Again, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out.
Okay, I missed about the first 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll have to catch that up on the recording, but thank you very much.
Sure. All right, everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you
you.
very much.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.